Hi there, this is Peekaboo, and I thought I would show you something that's starting to happen. Peekaboo's always had different different texture castings because we started with those technology bits of cardboard that were wrapped around monitors. And I figured out what happens is the processing of this material breaks down into larger pieces. Now, it's not larger castings, it's just larger pieces. And when I store these castings, they eventually turn into just normal looking castings. But in the meantime, they feel different. They feel rougher. They don't have that light, fluffy texture to them. And I was worried that, that meant that the worms maybe couldn't process them all the way. But once I had stored these castings for probably well over a month, 6 weeks or more, they turned into the same dark black castings that I find elsewhere. Now I have added cardboard here. You can see I've got regular bits of cardboard and brown paper grocery bags because I was worried that if I just used the technology cardboard, I wouldn't get quality castings, but it turned out that I just needed more time. We've actually harvested Peekaboo once. We did a partial harvest. We also infused Peekaboo with a lot of Gilligan's worms when we did the harvest on Gilligan. And so, sorry about the light changing there. There's some avocados. So there's a lot of worms in here. This used to be one of my bedding bins, but it kind of turned into a worm bin, and the worms are reproducing. There, oh, is that a cat? That looks like, no, that's not a cocoon. I thought it was. There are cocoons in here. I've seen them, but there are a lot more worms in here than I initially envisioned in a bedding bin. This is far more like a worm bin. When we restarted Gilligan, we took worms from Cinderella, actually, and not this bin. I have used these worms to bolster my garden towers and to donate to a friend who is starting a worm farm. But even so, the worms are reproducing in here. So this bin is thriving, but it is a little bit wet. And I don't mean muddy wet, but I just mean that these castings need a little bit of help to break down. So I'm going to show you a little trick that I've discovered. I'll just check for wisps on my fingers. And that is that we actually grind up leaves that have been dried in the fall. We grind them up into a powder in our Vitamix. And so they form, basically just like a flour, almost a flour-like texture that can be worked into castings that are looking a little bit on the wet side. And I like doing this rather than peat moss for a couple reasons. This is a leaf powder. Let me just turn it over to get rid of some of this floating dust here. The point is that this conditions the castings in a way that coconut coir and peat cannot do, because this is leaves. This has all the goodness of leaves in them. And so the worms will get, a good microbial boost from this. The nutrition of the leaves will be worked into your castings. And what happens almost instantly, I don't know if I've added enough, because this is quite a volume of castings here, as you can see, and it gets damper as I get closer to the bottom. You can see the castings are already starting to turn a darker color on the bottom. So anyway, what you can see almost instantly when I work in this leaf powder is the castings will get lighter. They will get more of that fluffy texture that we like to see. And the moisture is far more where I would like it to be. And I think the worms are happy. I think the worms, this is like food being mixed into every single corner of the bin. And it would instantly soak up any excess moisture. It's a little bit dry in that corner there. The powder was left unmixed in. So you can see that the castings, I know you can't feel them here, but the castings are instantly better texture. The moisture feels better. They feel fluffier. And, you know, as time goes by now, these leaves will disappear. They just absolutely disappear. And the castings never turn into a soggy or muddy, unsiftable moisture level. These castings now will continue to be processed, and I will be able to sift them and do a partial harvest, or I could wait a bit longer and do a full harvest when the time is right. But you'll see that when I eventually harvest Peekaboo, you'll see that the castings are light and fluffy rather than be that heavier, muddy texture that sometimes happen when you notice that your castings are getting a little bit too moist. Anyway, that's a tip I thought some people might find useful. It's April 23rd, 2022. Bye for now.